Okay, there we go. All right, so how's everyone? Good? Awesome, awesome. All right, so one of the elements that I really truly like about the California Residential Purchase Agreement, better known as the RPA, is it really defines our positions as real estate professionals, but it gives you the ability to submit an offer, negotiations, request repairs, and go through the elements of closing the deal and getting paid a commission. So this is one of the most vital, most used form, which is the RPA. So we're not going to dive deep in the whole content of it. We're just going to dive deep in paragraph 25. And the reason I want to, dive into paragraph 25 because it talks about the definitions and instructions that sometimes the agents fall a little short. So let me go ahead and scroll all the way down to 25. It's one of the last pages of the purchase agreement. So there we are. So 25, definition and instructions. All right. So how would a buyer and a seller know if their written offer or counter offer has been accepted? If they signed the final form is sent to the buyer agent or seller agent, the agent has a duty to inform the client and pass the documentation to the client. Once given to the agent, however, it is considered the same as if it was delivered to the buyer or seller. Delivery to the agent only works if the agent is named on this last page of the RPA. Okay. So before we get into it, I want to go into the meats and potatoes of this page. And it defines definition instructions. The following words are defined terms in the agreement, shall be indicated by the initial capital letters throughout the agreement and have the following meaning whenever it's used. So if you look at 25 A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and J, K, L, M, N, O, P, and Q, right? It gives you some bold information: acceptance, agent, agreement, as is, authorized agent, car forms, close of escrow, copy, counting days, days or days, delivered or delivery, electric copy or electric signature, law, legal authorized signer, otherwise agreed, repairs, sign or signed. Okay. So the reason I want to dive deep into this is because this is one of the most important aspects of what the contract really entails and how you navigate these conversations. I'm going to tell you, if you understand each of these different definitions, you're in a better position, armed with the right tools to really articulate the conversation with the opposing agent. And that's all we're trying to do, is navigate in case of what's an acceptance. Well, let's dive deep into what is an acceptance. An acceptance means that the time the offer or final counter offer is fully executed in writing by the recipient party, and it is delivered to the offering party or the party's authorized agent. There's three things that we just talked about right here in this paragraph. One, it has to be either the offer, a counteroffer, that could be a seller counteroffer, a seller multiple counteroffer, or a buyer counteroffer. Whatever is the last one, and there's an acceptance, then that is considered 25A. On top of that, just because I send you the paperwork doesn't necessarily mean it's acceptance, right? It has to be executed. I send you the offer and you respond back with the seller counteroffer. The buyer accepts the terms of the counteroffer, and therefore we have what's considered an acceptance. Okay. Now, it goes a little bit more. You don't necessarily have an acceptance based on this paragraph, because it has to be a final counter fully executed. It has to be in writing, and the recipient party has to be received and delivered. Okay. So if none of those elements fall into play, you don't have an accepted offer. And this is where the misconception, where I get a lot of agents, well, I thought the offer got accepted. Well, did you have the final counteroffer? Did the final counteroffer have the execution of the signatures necessary to meet the expectations of the acceptance, right? And the acceptance has to be mutually accepted by all parties, the buyer and the seller. Just because the buyer sends the offer with the initials and signature doesn't necessarily mean it's accepted. The seller has to be the receiving party, and the seller has to either accept the terms or send you a counter. And then once that counter is sent back to the buyer, then the buyer has to agree to those terms or send out another counter. And it's like playing tennis back and forth, folks. Okay. Once we have the final acceptance, then it has to go back saying, hey, we have your acceptance. They have to send you a copy of the executed signed agreement. Then that's when you can open escrow. Congratulations, your offer has been accepted. Just because they say verbally, hey, we accept your offer, is that acceptance? No, it's not. Verbal is not an acceptance. Verbal says, basically, we are agreeing to accept your offer, but it's still not confirmed by signing. Does that make sense? Okay. So remember, an offer is not accepted until all parties have signed, executed, and each party has confirmation of that acceptance. Okay, that it's been signed. Then you have a legitimate accepted offer. Now you can take that to escrow, to your TC, and start the momentum of opening escrow. Any questions regarding 25A? All right, 25B as in boy talks about agent. Yes, sir.
Confirmation can be done online too.
Confirmation can be done online. Yeah.
After it's been signed, you don't. It's confirmed.
Well, it has to be signed, and then it has to be sent over as confirmation that it's been executed by whoever party is the last party to sign. Then you have confirmation, and then it becomes acceptance. Good point. Agent means that the broker, salesperson, broker associate, or any other real estate licensee licensed under the brokerage firm identified in paragraph 2B. Now, if you go back to 2B, that's the confirmation of agency, right? On page 1 of the RPA. And really it's who's the brokerage, which is Keller Williams South Bay. Then you're going to put the brokerage license number. Then you're going to put yourself as the buyer's agent, right? You represent the buyer. You're going to put the buyer's information. That's what they refer to paragraph 2B as in boy. But an agent means is basically a salesperson, a broker associate that are in the capacity of the brokerage. Okay. So if it's you working with the buyer and the buyer asks you to submit an offer on their behalf, your information needs to be on the contract because you're the one that's going to navigate and work the deal, close the deal, and get paid a commission. Okay. So the agent is the person that's on page 1 of the RPA, confirmation of agency, the brokerage. Okay. So let me throw a wrench. You put your name, but you put a competitor's name and the competitor's license number. Is that considered the meaning of acceptance, in your opinion? If you put your name on paragraph 2B, but you accidentally put someone else's brokerage information, do we have a confirmation of acceptance? No, you don't. Okay. Make sure, because there's always going to be those errors that happen. that you have your information, your company's information, your company's DRE license, and your license number as well. You want to double check, triple check, quadruple check if you need to make sure that everything is in alignment. Because there's going to be error sometimes. Okay. 25C talks about the agreement. Means this document and any counter offers, any incorporate addendums or amendments collectively forming the binding agreement between the parties. The addendum and amendments are incorporated only when signed and delivered by all parties. So not just the acceptance, not just the agent confirmation, but now we're talking about the agreement. Okay, what is the agreement? The agreement, okay. Let me mute. Okay, the agreement is the documentation that you have in front of you, folks. You're negotiating, you're consulting your clients, and they have identified a property. And they say, Salvador, hey, you know what? We like this property on 123 ABC Street. Please, let's prepare an offer. So you're going to sit down and consult with your clients, and then you're going to ask them, well, what do you want to make an offer at, right? The property is listed for $850. It's been on the market for 3 days. I spoke with the listing agent. They have 2 additional offers, you know, so we may have to be aggressive. From a scale of 1 to 10, 10 meaning you must have this property. How aggressive are you on that scale? Well, we're at 8. Okay, so how do I get you from an 8 to a 10 to really make sure that this property doesn't fall and you don't lose the opportunity? Well, I think you're right, Simon. I think we need to be aggressive. So let's go 875. You know, let's reduce some of the contingencies in place. And let's see if we can get that offer accepted or at least countered. Because 3 things can happen on an offer, right? From a seller's perspective. The seller can accept, the seller can counter, or the seller can reject your offer. They don't have to even consider your offer. It is common courtesy, right? If your offer is not accepted, they reject your offer, then it's common courtesy that the listing agent reach out and says something to this nature, you know. Jim, thank you so much for submitting your offer. Unfortunately, your offer was not one that was considered, you know, so your offer will be rejected. That's the confirmation. Then there's a section on the purchase agreement that shows where the seller can confirm that the offer was rejected, and I'll show you where that shows. Okay. Any questions regarding agreement? All right. Now let's go dive into section 25D as in David that talks about as is. What is as is? As is condition, seller shall disclose known material facts and defects as specified in this agreement. Buyer has the right to inspect the property and within the time specified, request the seller make repairs or take other corrective actions or exercise any contingency cancellation rights in this agreement. Seller is only required to make repairs specified in this agreement or as otherwise agreed. Okay. So that's a lot of information. But when you're talking to a buyer, you know, you as a buyer consultant who specializes in helping buyers and sellers close these deals, you need to know how to have that conversation with the buyer. Okay. And what I mean by that is that all properties are sold in as is condition, all properties. Okay. Even though it may be, you know, house that was completely renovated with all new appliances, all new plumbing, all new electrical, new kitchen, new bathroom, new floors, new windows, new roof, new HVAC, new landscaping, new sprinkler system, whatever that looks like, it's still sellers selling the property in as is condition. Well, Simon, everything is new. I understand. I get it. But the whole purpose and process is that nothing is warranted. Nothing is guaranteed. Because even an HVAC that is brand new in a year from now may have issues, right? So the disclaimer that the seller is saying is, we'll sell the property to whoever gives us what we're looking for, price, terms, and condition. But the property is also being sold in as is condition. We're not going to do any repairs. We're not going to do any upgrades. We're not going to do anything. And the seller has that right and discretion. Okay. Now, with that being said, the seller may also want to bend because he wants to make the win, right? What we call the give and take, because negotiations, folks, okay? It's not about strong arming someone, right? You're going to do an arm wrestle, right? And you're strong and you want to beat your component, right? Well, that's not negotiations. You know what negotiations is? It's the win for everyone. Because the end goal is to do what? To close the gap, to close the deal so we all get paid. Buyer gets the property, seller gets to sell the property, and both agents get paid a commission, including escrow, including title, including home inspectors. There's a lot of people that get paid during this transaction, right? Right? Yes? Yeah. If you really think about it, look at how many people rely on us. We're the bus driver with all these people that are relying on us to get us to the destination. And what I mean by that, you're the realtor driving this bus. You hire the people that you want, the home inspector, right? The electrical, the plumbing, the roof, the landscaping, right? The foundation. They work when you put them to work. Well, your clients put them to work, right? But think about it. A seller needs a buyer. A seller may need an agent, and that agent may need you to get a ready, willing, and able buyer, right? If you really think about it. But that starts the momentum and the chain reaction of people working now, right? Then you have escrow working. Now you have your TC working, right? Then you have the lender working. Now you have the processor working. Now you have the underwriter working. Now you have home inspection companies working, right? There's a lot of people that are involved in a real estate transaction that because your submission of that offer starts the momentum to hire more people. It takes have you ever heard it takes a village to do and close a deal? And it's so true because it's not just you and I, my friend. It's not you and I. There's a lot of moving parts to a real estate transaction. And I want you to understand the concise approach on what your responsibility. You don't need to know everything about the contracts and the process, but you should have some understanding. You have the right people that will support you. Because there's a lot of language in there. Lots of stuff. But all of your answers are on the RPA. I encourage all of you to read the contract, not just once, not just twice, 20 times, 30 times, until you understand and grasp what the meaning and paragraphs entail. Because I can tell you, your answer will be on the purchase agreement. If there's a dispute, there's a disagreement, there's not going the direction it needs to go, you have the documentation in front of you that says, look, I know I remember seeing something on the RPA under paragraph 18, 22, 32 that says something. Then go and find it. All of your answers are there. Okay. So the as is clause is a stipulation that the buyer needs to know that there is no warranty, no guarantee. The seller is going to sell the property at the condition that you looked at it when you originally submitted the offer. Okay. Now, again, going back to the seller can also, as part of the negotiations, bend. Three things can happen. The seller can accept whatever your request of repairs are requesting from the buyer. The seller, in lieu of the repairs, may ask for a credit instead. Look, I know it's going to cost $20,000 to replace the roof, but instead, let's just do $15,000 credit and be done with it, and let the buyer be responsible when they close the deal to do the roof. Okay, and that's perfectly fine. Or number three, you can reduce the price. Okay, you end up $875,000, but after really looking at it from all inspections, instead of doing the repairs, instead of giving the credit, let's just do a price reduction. Okay, a price reduction to make it a win-win. And maybe the buyer will benefit from it. One, it's going to be a lower mortgage payment, lower fees to close, and the buyer may be happy to continue with the process. Because just as much as the buyer has skin in the game, the seller also. They both win or they both lose. And how they win is successfully closing. How they lose is successfully canceling. Okay? Or find a medium, work and iron it out, and make it a benefit to both, that both are happy. Okay? Because remember, when you're too stern and hitting that wall, it's gonna be to the point where someone is gonna cancel. And is that really what we're trying to do? Is that what we want to do? I know from a buyer's agent, I don't want to do that. I don't want to start over. I don't want to go show more properties. I don't want to submit offers with no hope that I'm going to get my offer accepted. I'm already in. Half of my leg is already in. I just want to now close it so my whole body is in, right? And we can close the deal. I hope that makes sense. Okay. All right, 25E talks about authorized agent. Means an individual real estate license specified in the real estate broker section. Okay, so an authorized is what it is. You're authorized, okay? If your client gives you instructions, they're authorizing you to do what? To do the work. You're the authorized agent. Okay, you have the ability and you have direction. Anything and everything that you do is on the direction of your buyer or your seller. Okay, the principles involved, right? Why is that? Why is that? Because the buyer is the one buying, the seller is the one selling. Okay, they're the ones that are taking the biggest risk. We're just facilitating the transaction to close the gap, to close the deal so we get paid. But you're not the buyer, you're not the seller. You're the agent representative, the authorized agent. Okay. Section 25F talks about car forms. Okay. You know how many car forms there are? Over 325. That's a lot of forms. And trust me, there's a lot of forms you'll probably never use. Forms you probably never know that they were there. And every year, twice a year, they're changing them. Once in June, once in December. We're in September now. We only got a couple weeks before October. And then before you know it, November and December. December, there's going to be new added forms, revisions, modifications, or deletions of the forms. Okay, that's just a given. If you talk to someone like Jim Provencio here, who has 50 plus years in the industry, he'll tell you that it was probably one-page purchase agreement, maybe 2 pages back in the 70s. 1 page. And now how many pages are? 16. 16, just the RPA. 16 from 1 page.
And you only have to cover these 4 things: cash, loans, agreements, and personal property.
There you go. There you go. You imagine if you were a real estate agent in the 70s or the 80s. Back then, I can tell you there was more written than actual black and white. You had to fill in the space, right? Price, terms, and conditions. None of this stuff that you see now was not pertinent It was not, and I remember I have an old 1970s purchase agreement that it was all handwritten. Really? You had to be like an attorney. It was just so interesting to see. It was bizarre because that's not what I was adapted when I started real estate in the 90s. Now, the 90s, when I started, I think there was 8 or 9 pages on the RPA. Now we're at 16. And I can tell you, okay, from personal experience that even 5 years, 10 years from now, it's going to go up to 20, 25 or more. There's always new case laws, new issues that are brought to, right? Brought to these changes in the car forms. So you have to understand that this doesn't stop. It's constantly revolving, constantly changing. And we just got to adapt to that. Section 25. Yes, sir.
Every time there's a major lawsuit, they have to change something.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. All right. So the next one talks about the section 25G, which is the close of escrow. Okay. So close of escrow defines included on the COE, means that the date the grant deed or the evidence of transfer of title is recorded. That's the key. If it's not officially recorded, you don't have a closed escrow. So it's not the buyer's property until you have confirmation, right? Confirmation of recording. Okay, go back to when you were getting your real estate license. I think that was part of your segue in training. What does recording mean? What does close of escrow mean? All right, just because they mention it doesn't mean it's official.
Recording means executed.
Recording means that it was recorded in the county recorders, wherever the county the property is at. If it's Los Angeles, at the county recorder of Los Angeles. If it's Orange County, at the county recorders of Orange County. San Bernardino, Riverside, San Diego, Kern County, doesn't matter. Any county. Once you get official, official recording, then that's when it changes from seller to the new buyer. Any questions on close of escrow? Okay, and you'll hear the COE. That's the lingo. Hey, when are we scheduled to close on the COE? Okay, that means close of escrow. Well, we're scheduled for Thursday, the 21st. Okay. So just because it says the 21st doesn't mean it officially closes. No, until we get confirmation from title or from the escrow company that it officially recorded. Then you can then you can congratulate your clients, pop the champagne, it's official, we record it. Section 25J, H, talks about copy. Means copy by any means, including photocopy, fax, or electric, meaning email. So when someone talks about copy are you supposed to get a copy to the buyer? Are you supposed to give a copy to the seller? The answer is yes. And you know how many agents fall short and not ever provide copies of the listing agreement or what they've signed? It is vital and crucial, folks, especially your elderlies, right? That are not savvy, not technology savvy, that they get hard copies. If they're requesting them, you must give it to them. Okay. And if you don't, you may not be entitled to a commission. But just remember that. Counting days. I love this one. Counting days, okay, is done as follows. Unless otherwise agreed, the first day after an event is the first full calendar day. So if I say it's a 30-day escrow and we accept that the offer today is today considered one of 30 days. Okay,
Yes,
what do you think today is one of 30 days?
because it was when it's accepted.
It's been accepted, yes. But if you read the definition for counting days, read what it says. The first day after an event is the first fully calendar day following the event. Okay, so remember this, the easy component to understand an acceptance is that anytime something is accepted, that day is considered 0 days of a 30-day calendar.
That was also for the classes, earnest money. That 3 days.
That's correct. Yeah. So if the offer got accepted today at 8 o'clock in the morning or 8 p.m. in the afternoon or evening, today would still be considered 0 days. Your official days of a 30-day calendar would be tomorrow being number 1 of a 30-day period. So remember that, okay? Because that's where a lot of agents get a little confused. Well, today is the first day of a 3 calendar day to put the buyer's earnest deposit. So they may make a mistake thinking that today is 1, tomorrow is 2, and then Thursday would be 3. In essence, no. They have Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Okay. That's what the definition shows. But it also says that in the event of a first full calendar date following the event and ending at 11:59 p.m. Okay, so if it's otherwise agreed upon, then the default time is 11:59. So if a buyer, here's an example. For example, if a notice to buyer to perform, better known as the NBP, is delivered at 3 p.m. on the 7th calendar day of the month, or acceptance of a counteroffer is personally received at 12 noon on the 7th calendar day of the month, and the 7th is day 0 for purposes of counting days, and it goes back to section 25I, to respond to the NBP, the notice to perform, or calculating the close of escrow date or contingency removal date on the 8th day of the month is day 1 for those same purposes. All calendar days are counted in establishing the first day after an event. All calendar days are counted in determining the date upon which performance must be completing and ending at 11:59 p.m. On the last day for performance, scheduled performance day, and after acceptance, if the scheduled performance day for any act required by this agreement, including close of escrow, lands on a Saturday, Sunday, or legal holiday, the performing party shall be allowed to perform on the next day that is not a Saturday, Sunday, or legal holiday. Allowable performance days. And again, ending at 11:59 p.m. So, okay, I know it's a little confusing. I'm gonna try to put it in Lane's term, right? You represent the buyer and you're at the cusp of releasing your final contingency, which is the loan contingency, right? And you got 17 days, right? If the contingency of loan falls on a Saturday, Sunday, or a legal holiday, is that when the buyer has to release the contingency? So let's say it falls on a Saturday. You have to request your buyer to release that loan contingency. The answer is no. If it falls on a Sunday, the answer is no. If it falls on a holiday, right? Let's just use Thanksgiving. When does Thanksgiving usually fall under? Thursday. But a lot of people have Friday off, right? In lieu of Thanksgiving. if the contingency falls on Friday, but it's a holiday for a lot of us who take time off, does the buyer have to release the contingency that Friday? Yes or no? No? Why? Friday is not considered a holiday. It's not a legal day. Only Thanksgiving is.
So it's the next day.
No, think about this, folks, okay? Calendar day, yes, sir. Yeah. Remember, Saturday, Sunday are legal holiday. Friday is not considered a legal holiday. Thursday is considered a legal holiday. So if it falls on Thursday, then yes, it would revert to the next calendar day, which would be Friday. But where I threw that wrench at you guys is what I said, if it falls on a Friday right after Thanksgiving, okay, yes, Penny, thank you. Next business days, yeah, next business days or calendar days. And typically, as you said, Penny, you're 100% would revert to a Monday through Friday type. But yeah, absolutely 100%. That's where the tricky part, because a lot of us take Friday off, right? You got Thursday, Friday, and you're just recouping from the holiday festivities and all that good, yummy food, right? But technically speaking, folks, Friday is not considered a holiday, so therefore the buyer would be required to release that contingency that Friday. And if the buyer doesn't, then a notice to perform must be accomplished by the listing agent and the seller. Okay. It's interesting, but a lot of people unfortunately don't understand the dynamics to it. And on top of that, they have to 11:59 p.m. So can the listing agent and the seller tell you got to remove the contingency by 1 p.m. on Friday? Well, if it's not in writing, technically speaking, no, they have to 11:59. Really, almost to the end of midnight, right? 11:59 is the last minute before the next following day. So it's in black and white, folks. It's very clear and concise. And if you don't know, always go back to the definition aspect of it. Remember 25A through H or Q. Okay. All right, now let's go into J25 day and days. Means calendar days or days. However, delivery of deposit to escrow is based on business days, not calendar days, because if you think about it, what is the difference between calendar days and business days?
Business days are.
Business days are Monday to Friday, correct? Okay, whereas, one second. It's if excuse me, days and days are considered, then business days are considered, like you said, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whereas calendar days can be Monday through Sunday. Okay, and that calendar days is also included as part of holidays, because a holiday can either fall anywhere from Monday, Tuesday, Friday, okay, or even sometimes Monday. We see a holiday, right? We see mostly Fridays, or we see sometimes Monday as a being a legal holiday. Okay. All right, so 25K, delivered, and delivery of documents unless otherwise agreed means that shall be effective upon personal receipt of the document by the buyer or seller or their authorized agent. Personal receipt means a copy of the document or as applicable linked to the document in the possession of the party or authorized agent, regardless of the delivery method used. Okay. So basically what it states is that even as an example, the link could be from an example Dropbox, Google Drive, or any functional equivalent program. If the recipient of the link is unable or unwilling to open the link or download the document or otherwise prefer delivery of documents directly, recipient of a link shall notify the sender in writing within 3 days. After delivery of the link, car form RFR will be included. In such case, delivery shall be effected upon delivery of the documents and not the link. Failure to notify the sender when the time specified above shall be deemed as consent to receive and buyer opening the document by link. So otherwise, what it says is if you are sending someone a link, such as a Dropbox or Google Drive, that person needs to acknowledge that they have received and have been able to open it. And it's up to the responsible party that is receiving this, that if they do not prefer to receive it in that manner, that they rather have you send it via email or, hand deliver hard copies, the recipient needs to acknowledge in writing and let the listing agent know, hey, Salvador, thank you for sending me the link on that Google Drive for all of the acceptance. I don't have the capability. Would it be possible if you just send it to me via PDF instead? Don't send it to me Google Drive or Dropbox, just send it to me as a PDF. Okay, now I have acknowledged and put a request that I'm requesting, right? Requesting the listing agent to provide us in a different format instead of Google Drive or Dropbox. Does that make sense? Okay. Section 25L talks about the electric copy or electric signature. How many of us use DocuSign, right? Or other platforms for signature, right? I caution you, and I want you to be very careful as well, because, we got a lot of older people that are not very tech savvy. Okay. And I've seen this happen quite often, especially in the Latin community, because all of this is in what language? English. And I've seen where the deal falls apart because, one, you send me a DocuSign, I just click, 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 and it put my initials and my signatures. But I don't know what I signed. And that can happen. So you want to make sure that you understand those elements, folks, because if you don't, it can come back to bite you. It can be where I don't know what I signed. I just click, 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 and it put my initials, but I didn't read what it said. So you got to be very careful when you're doing DocuSign, folks, because it can definitely come back to haunt you. Okay. So the best approach in those elements, if it's someone that doesn't really understand or English is not their first language, right? Then we need to sit down with our clients and go page by page explaining what they're signing. Now, you don't have to be so detail oriented that you have to read you always advise your clients that, if there's anything that you don't understand, please reach out to me. But if not, we highly recommend that you speak with an attorney. Yes, Salvador.
Yeah, I've seen what it's done about, but client will not put in English, and we had done 2 transactions at for the earnest money, it's been sent in English. And I have gone to the bank to assist with the process, translation, confirming account and the routing number and everything.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't really understand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen where the deal falls apart and it happened to us, a listing agent. The listing agent sent, thinking that it's super convenient, right? And it's super quick. We agreed to the terms and conditions, and they sent a DocuSign, right? And that email gets sent over to the seller, right? And the seller just opens it up, click, 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 initials and signatures come into play. And then 2 weeks later, they want it off the MLS. They want to cancel. And the reason they want to is, we don't know. There might have other intentions, right? But one of the positions that I've seen happen is, I want to cancel. I'm not happy with the agent. I don't know what I signed. Now we can argue that fact, right? And we can say, well, you looked at the form, you initialed and signed the form. That to me shows acknowledgement. That shows that you understood, and that shows that Why would you sign something that you did not agree to?
Intent, it's called.
Yeah. Thank you, intent. But if someone that is not their first language can use that as an avenue, well, I understand, but I didn't understand. Now, that is not a good excuse either, folks, okay? Because if someone didn't understand, why would they sign? Obviously, the listing agent or the agent itself needs to sit down and explain every element so that way they know exactly what they're doing. Because at the end of the day, it's about what? Helping them sell their property for the highest possible with the least amount of headaches to net them the most. Right?
Also, you have an interpreter there too. To
Yep.
speak, somebody that speaks their language is even. I mean,
Absolutely.
if they speak English and they don't speak it well, you should have an interpreter there. And all these agents are signing contracts with older people. I'll tell you one thing right now. You have to make sure the grandma is competent in signing the contract. Because if she signs a contract and one of her kids doesn't like it, they can declare her incompetent and then the contract null and void. We signed a contract with an incompetent person. So we ran into a situation just like this, or Rocio did.
Mhm.
The Mexican lady is illiterate. She can't read or she can't write. But, so I said, and Rocio speaks Spanish fluently, but that's still not a good situation because Rocio is taking the listing. So I advise Rocio to get a second person who speaks Spanish there as a witness and interpreter, all right? And to fully go through the contract with her and explain it by her and her assistant or the other person that she hired to do it. And that way, if anything happens, she says, no, I even asked her to get one of her friends or somebody to interpret. So it makes the contract a little bit more valid.
Yeah, that's a good
And
point.
Do you have to get a valid signature for the interpreter?
She knew how to sign her name, but she didn't know how to read. So she doesn't read, she doesn't know what the contract says.
No, the interpreter.
The interpreter has to be
Signed.
literate and, competent and everything else.
But you haven't signed the contract?
No, because she has nothing to do, she's not on title. Now, if she was, now you can do it another way, do an attorney in fact. If she has a relative that does power of attorney, you could get specific power of attorney to sign that specific contract. Specific power of attorney, that's what you do. You never just get power of attorney, I think, you always get specific. Only just to sign the contract, because you just get power of attorney and you recommend his power of attorney. And that person starts going into everybody else's, her other accounts. Guess who's responsible? She's for me, you can get power of attorney. So you have
To be careful.
you have to be careful when you tell somebody something. Always check with the broker, because the broker's gonna say specific power of attorney, or have them contact an attorney themselves. Because we want to be less liable, we want to be pulled out of that situation, have them sign power of attorney with somebody else. That's always better. And don't have a power of attorney ever be signed by our escrow company. Because then we're part, as soon as our escrow company, because it's the broker on escrow, we're part of the problem as far as any other attorneys concerned. Remember, even though you're innocent, I've been sued 3 times, totally innocent, 100% exonerated, my broker still had to pay. So if your name's a part of there, the attorneys, they say sue people A through C. That means they sue the listing agent, the selling agent, the listing agent, the broker for each company, and even the escrow. If they have to. Everybody gets sued because they're looking for some pockets. And
Yeah.
that's it, let me tell you. Arizona Missions, they settled. And it
Yeah.
goes against our record, even if you're innocent. They have like a $20,000 Arizona Missions where they're not gonna fight people, so.
Yeah.
You gotta watch out what you do.
Yeah.
And I don't tell people that.
Yeah. Well, and that goes, and I don't want to go too far into that because I mean, this is the whole purpose of having these classes to
Exactly.
educate. This room should be filled, right, We should have a lot of,
Fellow people who.
because the problem here, and I'm sorry, Jim, the problem here is that sometimes you go and submit offers and you don't even know what you're doing. So this is why, having the broker support, team leader support, productivity support, other agents, similar to Jim that have been in the trenches, that have done this, like Salvador and also Jim, who've been in the industry for a long time. Penny, as an example, who's been in the industry for a while. These are the people that you need to kind of, get some guidance and advice. But at the very end, remember, we're not attorneys, we're not tax advisors. We need to send them to the proper authority for these type, because once they sign, it can go any different direction. And we're not in the position to jeopardize, the buyer's deposit, right, or damages from the seller. So you got to be very careful. So we got to continue on it, but
My started was only 1 page contract.
yeah,
Now, was it 16 pages?
16 pages. Yeah,
And growing.
it's funny, Jim, because we were just talking about it.
Even me, I have to read this contract a couple of times, if you get your license this year, you're not gonna know the whole contract for 2 years later. I don't care what you say, unless you're reading it every single day and going over with the broker and going over every single clause. Because I've been through every single clause with every attorney in every situation. That's why I know the contract, but this is the very, very important class.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm here checking it out.
Awesome. Thanks, Jim. All right, let's wrap it up, because I got a couple more paragraphs before we close it out, guys.
So in a nutshell, if you have a language problem whatsoever, get them in the office with an interpreter.
Absolutely. We got a lot of Spanish speaking people that can help and navigate that as well. Obviously, family members too as well. Yeah. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. All right, so let's wrap it up, guys. I got 2 minutes to complete the last part here. So electric copies of electric signatures, obviously, with DocuSign and third-party website platforms. Just remember that it is valid, but also they can dissect it as well and say, well, I didn't really know what I was signing. I just click. So make sure that you have a conversation, and then once they understand it, then, is it okay for us to now get it DocuSign? My best approach is wet signatures, okay? If you can get the client to sign in front of you, even better, okay? Because they cannot use an example that I didn't know what I was signing, it was just an email sent, it just had me click, I didn't really put the time, effort, and energy to, read the information. Section 25M goes into law, means any law, code, statute, ordinance, regulations, rules, or order, which is adopted by a controlling city, county, state, or federal jurisdiction or executive body or agency. So basically, anything that supersedes, right? If the property falls in the city, the county, the state, federal, we have to abide by all that as a real estate professional. We're not in any shape, way, or form limited, just because, we live in this specific city, right? Because there's also county regulations, state regulations, and then federal regulations as well. Legal authorized signer means any individual who has authority to sign for the principal as specified in paragraph 32 or paragraph 33. And then 25O talks about otherwise agreed, means an agreement in writing signed by both parties and delivered to each. And then repairs means any repairs, including termite control, alterations, replacements, modifications, retrofitting of the property provided by under this agreement. And then Q, signed or signed, means either a handwritten or electric signature on an original document, a copy, or any counterpart. Okay, that's what Q25 talks about, sign or sign. So if I have the buyer sign here, right, buyer initial, it also says it needs to be executed and signed by who? The seller. Okay. the liquidated damage provision, paragraph 29, you get the buyer to sign and the seller to sign, the arbitration clause, right? Buyer, seller to sign, and then the entire page, buyer to seller to sign. And once you get accustomed and understanding, that there's one page that has 3 initials for each party. And then, confirmation as an example, but there's just a lot of information, folks, okay? So when the buyer signs, executes the form, then it needs to be sent over to the next party, which would be the seller in this instance, right? And that's where you'll understand the elements of your position, and more so when the offer is accepted. Any questions? No questions. Okay. Well, then that